There are moments in life when time slows down, not to save you, but to let you understand how close you were to disappearing. On a mountain road in southern Colorado, late at night, no street lights, no witnesses, my car spun out of control. No seat belts, no warning, no second chance. We should have died there. Physics says so. Logic demands it. But instead, something stopped us. Not metal, not luck. Hands, invisible, deliberate, holding us in place, in the exact instant death reached for us. Later, we would find a roadside cross, where a house had stood only moments before. Later, my friend would confess. He swerved to avoid an old woman I never saw, and weeks later, I would dream of the crash from outside my own body and see what truly held us back. This is not a story about a haunted road. It's a story about a road that remembers, about a presence that chooses who gets to keep going, and about the night I learned that sometimes, when death steps into the headlights, something older steps in first. My name is Michael Carter. I'm a high school teacher living in a rural stretch of Colorado where the mountains loom like silent witnesses and the nights feel longer than they should. People think places like this are peaceful, quiet, safe. But silence doesn't mean empty, and darkness doesn't mean nothing is there. This story happened several years ago, long enough that the edges should have faded, but they never did. Because some memories don't fade, they wait. Back when I was a college student in Denver, I met a girl named Emily Tran. She wasn't someone you noticed right away. Emily didn't laugh loudly. She didn't dominate conversations. She didn't try to be seen. She existed carefully. She sat near the edges of classrooms, chose seats close to exits, and when professors spoke, she listened as if every word mattered more to her than to anyone else. We were classmates, nothing more. No romance, no dramatic moments, just small conversations, shared assignments, quiet acknowledgments in crowded hallways. But there was something about Emily that always unsettled me, not in a bad way, in a way I couldn't name. It was as if she was always half a step out of sync with the rest of us, like she was tuned to a different frequency. Sometimes, when I spoke to her, she'd pause before answering, as if she were checking with something unseen before responding. I remember asking her once if she was okay. She smiled and said, "I'm fine. I just notice things." I didn't ask what she meant. I should have. After graduation, life scattered us. Jobs, responsibilities, different states. Emily moved away. I stayed in Colorado, eventually becoming a teacher, settling into routines that felt solid, predictable. Years passed, nearly 10 years without a word from her. I assumed she'd faded into the background of my life, a memory filed away and forgotten. I was wrong. It was a late evening when my phone rang, the kind of night where the house feels too quiet, where even the ticking clock sounds loud. The number was unfamiliar. I almost ignored it, but something small and insistent, pressed against my chest. I answered, Hello. There was silence. Not the empty kind, the heavy kind. Then a voice. Michael. I knew it immediately, even after all those years. It was Emily. Her voice sounded older, tired, like it had traveled a long way to reach me. We exchanged brief pleasantries. She told me she was married now, that her husband had accepted a job in a small town in southern Colorado, a place she described as quiet, remote, surrounded by trees. She said they needed help moving from Denver. Just transportation. Just a favor. Her words were polite, carefully chosen, but beneath them, I heard something else. A tension, a hesitation, as if she were asking for more than a ride, without knowing how to say it. I hesitated. It wasn't convenient. It wasn't necessary. There were moving companies, friends, other options. But again, that feeling returned. That pressure, like a hand resting lightly on my back, guiding me forward. I can help, I heard myself say. There was a pause on the other end. Then relief. Too much relief. Thank you, Emily said softly. You don't know how much that means. She was wrong. I would know. Soon enough. The days leading up to the trip felt strange. Time moved unevenly. Sleep came in fragments. I caught myself thinking about Emily, about how she used to sit in class, about the way she listened. I told myself it was nostalgia, nothing more, but something inside me knew better. For the return trip, I asked Jake Miller to come along. Jake was my closest friend, a long-haul truck driver with thousands of miles behind him. He trusted roads the way some people trust religion. If anyone could make a late-night mountain drive feel safe, it was Jake. When I told him about the trip, he laughed. Southern Colorado, he said. Piece of cake. He didn't see the way my hand tightened around the phone. He didn't hear the echo in Emily's voice. He didn't feel what I felt. The day we arrived in Denver to help Emily move, she looked different. Not unhappy, just worn. Her eyes lingered on doorways, on windows, on empty spaces. When I asked if everything was all right, she smiled again. That same smile from college. The one that never quite reached her eyes. I'm fine, she said. It'll be better once we're there. Once we're there. The words stuck with me. Because she didn't sound hopeful. She sounded certain. We delivered Emily and her husband to the town just before sunset. The place was smaller than I expected. Quieter. The forest pressed close, as if reclaiming the edges of civilization inch by inch. As we unloaded the last box, Emily turned to me. Don't drive back too late, she said. Her voice trembled. Jake laughed it off. We'll be fine. Emily looked at me instead. Her eyes held something unspoken. A warning, or a plea. I nodded. We left as the sky darkened, unaware that the road ahead had already been waiting for us. We left the town just as the last strip of orange light slid behind the mountains. Southern Colorado has a way of swallowing daylight without warning. One moment, the road is familiar. The next, it feels like night has dropped straight down around you. Jake was driving, relaxed, one hand on the wheel. the other tapping lightly against the door to a song that barely came through the radio. I watched the trees. They crowded closer the farther we went. Tall, dense. Their branches reached toward the road like dark fingers, bending inward, closing the gap. Emily's words replayed in my head. Don't drive back too late. I told myself she was just worried. New town, new life, nerves. But the feeling didn't fade. Jake broke the silence. You know, he said, there's a shortcut up ahead. I looked over at him. Shortcut? Yeah, he nodded. Cuts through the forest. Barely any traffic. I've taken it before. Something in my stomach tightened. The main road was longer, but it was lit, marked, predictable. This one's fine, I said. No rush. Jake smiled. Relax, man. Trust me. He always said that. And he was almost always right. Almost. The turn came up suddenly. A narrow road branching off into darkness. No streetlights. No reflective signs. Just a faded warning marker, half hidden by weeds. Jake slowed, then turned. The car's headlights swept across the trees, and the world narrowed. The road was barely wide enough for two cars. Gravel crunched beneath the tires. The radio crackled, popped, then dissolved into static. Jake frowned and turned the dial. Nothing. Silence settled in the car. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that presses against your ears, forcing you to notice every breath, every creak of the vehicle, every small sound you wish you weren't hearing. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Time felt wrong out there. The trees formed a tunnel, their tops merging overhead, blocking out the stars. The headlights showed only what was directly ahead. Everything else was swallowed. I became acutely aware of the darkness beyond the beam, the places we couldn't see. I shifted in my seat. You sure this is the right way? I asked. Jake didn't answer right away. His jaw was tight now. His eyes locked forward. Yeah, he said finally. Just longer than I remembered. The road dipped, then climbed. Curves tightened. The forest grew denser. I noticed there were no animal sounds. No insects. No wind. Just us. I glanced at the dashboard clock. The numbers blurred for a second, then snapped back into focus. Too much caffeine, I told myself. Stress. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that. The air inside the car felt colder. Not enough to see your breath. Just enough to notice. I wrapped my arms around myself. Jake turned on the heater. Nothing changed. That's when the feeling hit. Sudden. Sharp. Like a hand squeezing my chest. Jake, I said quietly. What? Slow down. He glanced at me. Why? I don't know, I admitted. Just slow down. He hesitated, then eased off the gas. The car rolled forward at a crawl. The headlights reached the edge of a downhill slope. The road curved sharply to the right. The forest on either side seemed to lean inward, as if listening. And then, Jake slammed the brakes. What the hell? I started to say. At the same instant, he yanked the steering wheel hard to the left. The tires screamed. The world spun violently. My body lifted from the seat. Time stretched. I remember thinking, absurdly, this is how it ends. There was no warning, no impact at first. Just rotation, darkness, weightlessness, and then a deafening crash. Metal shrieked. Glass exploded. The car slammed sideways into something solid. A jolt tore through my body, and then nothing. Silence. My ears rang. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might tear itself free. I was still in my seat, not thrown forward, not crushed. Jake was breathing heavily beside me, alive, unbroken. We weren't wearing seatbelts. We should have been smashed against the dashboard. We should have been dead. But we weren't. It felt as if something had stopped us mid-motion, held us in place, refused to let us go. I couldn't explain it. I didn't want to try. "Jake," I whispered. "Yeah," he said hoarsely. "I'm here." We sat there for several seconds, maybe minutes, neither of us moving. Then Jake laughed. A short, shaky sound. Guess that rock came out of nowhere. I frowned. Rock. He looked at me. "You didn't see it?" I shook my head. There was nothing there. Jake swallowed. "I swear, I saw someone." My skin prickled. "Someone, an old woman," he said, "right in the road. She just appeared." My mouth went dry. There was no one there, Jake. He stared straight ahead. "I know what I saw." We stepped out of the car. The night air hit me like ice. The headlights illuminated the damage. The front end was crushed against a massive boulder at the edge of the road. If we'd hit it head-on. I didn't finish the thought. That's when I noticed something else. Beyond the trees, a short distance away, a white house, lights glowing warmly in every window, standing where no house should have been. My heart sank. "Jake," I said slowly, "was that there before?" He turned, his face drained of color. "No," he whispered, and somehow, we both knew. This night wasn't finished with us yet. For a moment, neither of us moved. The engine was still running, its low rumble the only sound that proved the world hadn't ended. The headlights cast long, trembling shadows across the trees. And beyond them, the house. White walls, clean lines, perfectly intact. Its windows glowed with a warm yellow light, the kind that suggests safety. Dinner tables, people inside. It didn't belong there. The forest around us was dense, ancient, untouched. There was no driveway, no fence, no mailbox, just a house, standing alone, as if it had been placed there deliberately, like bait. "Maybe it's a ranger station," Jake said. His voice lacked conviction. I didn't answer. Something about the way the light shone through those windows felt wrong. Too steady, too calm. I took a step toward it. Immediately, a wave of dizziness washed over me. The ground seemed to tilt, the trees bending inward, their branches stretching and retracting like they were breathing. I grabbed the car door to steady myself. "Michael," Jake said sharply. "Don't." I stopped. I hadn't realized how badly I wanted to walk closer until he told me not to. It was like the house was calling, not with sound, with memory, with familiarity that didn't belong to me. We stood there, frozen, staring. The longer I looked, the more the house felt less like a structure and more like an idea, something my mind was trying to accept, even though it knew better. The porch light flickered once, then steadied. My chest tightened. "I don't like this," I said. Jake nodded. "Let's just get back in the car." We didn't discuss knocking. We didn't discuss asking for help. Instinct screamed louder than logic. As we climbed back inside, I glanced over my shoulder one last time. The house was still there, watching, waiting. Jake eased the car back onto the road. The tires crunched over gravel as we pulled forward, slowly, cautiously. Neither of us spoke. The headlights swung ahead, then briefly washed over the place where the house had stood. And then, it was gone. No foundation, no outline, no sign that anything had ever been there. My breath caught in my throat. "Jake," I said, "stop the car." He did. We sat there in stunned silence, staring at the empty forest. Where the house should have been, there was nothing. Nothing except a wooden cross, standing crooked at the edge of the road, weathered, splintered. A small plaque was attached near the base, too dark to read from the car, but its presence was unmistakable. A memorial for a life lost, right here. I felt my legs tremble. "That wasn't there before," Jake whispered. "No," I said. "It wasn't." We got out again. The air felt heavier now, charged, as if we'd stepped into a place that remembered things it didn't want forgotten. I walked closer to the cross. Each step felt wrong, like I was crossing a line. The wood was old, decades old. Names and dates were carved into it, barely legible. A chill ran through me as I realized something. The cross stood exactly where Jake had swerved, exactly where the house had appeared, as if both marked the same spot, the same moment, the same boundary. "I need to tell you something," Jake said quietly. I turned to him. He wasn't looking at the cross. He was staring into the forest. I didn't just see her at the last second. My heart sank. "What do you mean?" "She'd been there before," he said, "standing between the trees, watching us." I felt my stomach twist. "You didn't say anything." "I thought I was tired," he said. "Thought my eyes were playing tricks." He swallowed hard. But when she stepped onto the road, I knew she was real. "What did she look like?" I asked. Jake hesitated. "Old," he said. "Very old. Bent over, wearing something light-colored." My blood ran cold. "Did you see her face?" He shook his head. "No, just shadows." The image burned into my mind. An old woman, light-colored clothing, standing where the house appeared. I thought of Emily, of how she used to listen, of how she said she noticed things. We got back in the car for the last time. Neither of us wanted to stay there any longer. The forest felt closer now, as if the trees had shifted while we weren't looking. As Jake drove, I watched the rearview mirror. I don't know why. Part of me expected to see the house again, or the woman, or something worse. The road stretched on. The radio flickered back to life briefly, just long enough to catch a burst of static, then went dead again. Why would a house appear there? I asked quietly. Jake didn't answer. He kept his eyes on the road, because I think we both knew the truth. It wasn't a house. It was a warning, or a memory, or something trying to make sense to us, using shapes we recognized. Something that had already decided we weren't meant to die there. We didn't speak for the rest of the drive, but the silence was different now. Not empty, not peaceful. It was full of questions, full of unseen eyes, full of the certainty that what we'd experienced had not been an accident, and that whatever had stepped in that night had done so on purpose. We made it back just before dawn. The sky was beginning to pale, the mountains outlined in dull gray light, as if the world was pretending nothing had happened. Jake dropped me off without turning off the engine. Neither of us suggested grabbing coffee. Neither of us joked. Neither of us promised to call. Some experiences don't allow small talk afterward. Jake just looked at me. His eyes were red, not from lack of sleep, but from seeing something he couldn't unsee. "Drive safe," he said. I nodded. The car pulled away, and for the first time since the crash, I felt truly alone. Inside my house, everything looked normal. Too normal. The furniture was where I'd left it. The lights worked. The walls didn't lean inward, but the air felt wrong, heavier than it should have been. I locked the door, then checked it again. I didn't turn on the lights. I stood there in the darkness, listening, waiting for something I couldn't name. Nothing came. That should have been comforting. It wasn't. Sleep didn't come easily. When it finally did, it was shallow, fractured, filled with half-formed images. Trees without leaves. A road curving out of sight. A shape standing just beyond the beam of headlights. I woke up gasping for air. The clock read 3:17 a.m. The room was cold. Not winter cold. Empty cold. Like something had just left. The days that followed felt stretched thin. At work, my students' voices sounded distant, as if I were underwater. I caught myself staring out classroom windows, watching the tree line, listening. Every creak of the building made my heart jump. At night, I left the porch light on, then the hallway light, then the bedroom lamp. I told myself it was temporary, that it would pass. It didn't. A week after the crash, the dreams began in earnest. Not random dreams. Not jumbled nonsense. These were deliberate. The first one started with darkness. Complete. Total. Then, footsteps. Slow. Measured. Crunching softly against gravel. I wasn't walking. I was being led. I could feel a presence ahead of me. Tall. No, not tall. Bent. There was the faint scent of dust, and old wood, and something else I couldn't place. I wanted to ask who it was. My mouth wouldn't open. The darkness lifted slightly, just enough to reveal a hand. Wrinkled, thin, pale. It reached back, not touching me, but close enough that I could feel the cold radiating from it. I followed, not because I wanted to, because I had no choice. The scene shifted. Suddenly, I was standing above the road. The same road, the shortcut. The forest pressed in from both sides. The car appeared below me, Jake and I inside. Moments before the crash, I watched it happen again. The swerve, the spin, the inevitable impact. But this time, time slowed. I saw something else. Two shapes, emerging from the darkness at the moment of impact. They weren't solid. They weren't transparent either. They were impressions, like pressure on the air. One wrapped around me, the other around Jake, holding us in place, stopping us, protecting us. I tried to scream. The dream ended. I woke up drenched in sweat. My heart was racing. My hands were shaking, and I knew, with a certainty that frightened me, that the dream wasn't imagination. It was memory, just not mine alone. The dreams continued, night after night. Always the same road, always the same presence leading me. Sometimes I caught glimpses of her, the old woman, her outline clearer now, her clothes light-colored, almost white, but her face, never her face. It was always obscured, shadowed, as if my mind refused to let me see it, or as if something else refused to show it. During the day, small things started happening. I'd feel a pressure on my shoulder, turn around, and find no one there. Doors I didn't remember opening would be ajar. I'd hear footsteps in the hallway, only to find the house empty. Once, while grading papers late at night, I heard a soft knock at the front door. 3 slow taps. When I opened it, there was nothing, no one, just the porch light, flickering gently, as if disturbed by a passing presence. I didn't tell anyone, not Jake, not my co-workers. I was afraid of the words, afraid that saying them out loud would make the experience real in a way I couldn't take back. But the dreams grew stronger, more detailed, more insistent, until one night, they changed. In the dream, the old woman stopped walking. She turned toward me, slowly, deliberately. I felt dread coil in my stomach. This was it. This was the moment I'd been avoiding. She raised her hand and pointed, not at me, at the road, at the place where the cross stood. And then, for the briefest instant, I understood. She hadn't appeared to cause the crash. She had appeared to prevent something worse, something final. I woke up with a gasp. My room was dark, silent, but I felt it again, that presence, standing just beyond my bed, not threatening, not comforting, just there, watching, making sure I was still alive. That was when I realized the truth. Whatever had been on that road with us, whatever had reached out and held us back, had not stayed behind. It had followed me home, not to haunt, not to harm, but to remind me that some roads remember those who travel them, and some protections come at a cost. We don't understand until much later, after the dreams changed, after the old woman pointed toward the cross instead of leading me forward. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Some questions refuse to stay buried. They scratch. They whisper. They wait until you're too tired to pretend you don't hear them. I needed answers. I started with the road. Not officially. Not through reports or databases. I asked people. Quietly. Carefully. The way you ask when you don't want to sound insane. At a gas station near the edge of town, I mentioned the shortcut to the cashier. The man froze for half a second. Just long enough. "That old road," he said. I nodded. He leaned closer. "You don't take that road at night." "Why?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he rang up my purchase, handed me my change, and said, "Because it's not empty." That phrase followed me. Not empty. I spoke to a retired park ranger a few days later. He'd worked the forests around southern Colorado for decades. When I described the bend in the road, the boulder, the memorial cross, he sighed. "People see things there," he said. "What kind of things?" He shrugged. "Depends who you ask." I pressed. He lowered his voice. "An old woman. Sometimes a house. Sometimes both." My chest tightened. "Do you know why?" He stared past me, toward the mountains. "That road's been claiming people for a long time," he said. "Mostly elderly. Mostly at night." I swallowed. "And the woman?" The ranger hesitated. "Some folks say she's one of them," he said. "A victim who never left. Others say..." He paused. "She's something else." "What kind of something else?" I asked. He met my eyes. "The kind that steps in when it's not your time." I drove home in silence. The words echoed in my head. When it's not your time. I thought of the hands in my dream. The pressure. The restraint. Not pushing us away from death, but holding us back from crossing a line. That night, I dreamed again. But this time, I wasn't alone above the road. I saw others. Cars from different decades. Different shapes. Different eras. Some swerved too late. Some never swerved at all. And always, she was there. The old woman. Sometimes she stood in the road. Sometimes near the trees. Sometimes she wasn't visible at all. Only felt. I realized then that not everyone saw her. Only those who needed to. I woke with a name on my lips. Not spoken in the dream, but understood. Guardian. Not angel. Not ghost. Something older. Something bound to the land. I called Jake. We hadn't spoken since that night. When he answered, his voice sounded distant. Tired. "You still having dreams?" he asked before I could speak. "Yes," I said. "So am I." He told me his were different. He didn't see the old woman. He felt her. A pressure on his hands when he drove at night. A sudden urge to slow down. To change lanes. To stop altogether. "I almost rear-ended a truck last week," he said. "But something yanked the wheel." My heart sank. "Did you see anything?" "No," he said, but I thanked the air anyway. We talked for a long time, about the road, about the crash, about how neither of us felt lucky. Luck implies randomness. This didn't feel random. A few days later, I returned to the cross. In daylight, it looked smaller, less threatening, but no less heavy. I stood there for a long time, listening. The forest was alive now. Birds, wind, leaves shifting, but beneath it all, there was stillness, a presence that didn't move, because it didn't need to. I whispered, "Thank you." I don't know who I was speaking to. The wind picked up suddenly, rustling the trees, circling around me, then fading. For a moment, I felt the same pressure I'd felt in the dreams. Hands on my shoulders, not holding me back, not pushing me forward, just acknowledging me. The dreams began to fade after that. Not disappear, fade. Like a voice growing quieter as it moves farther away. Never fully gone, but no longer urgent. The old woman stopped leading me. She stopped pointing. She simply stood, watching, as if making sure I remembered. I still think about Emily, about how she warned me not to drive back too late, about how she said things would be better once she was there. I haven't asked her what she knows. Some truths don't need confirmation. Some things are understood without being spoken. The road is still there. People still drive it. Some never notice anything. Some slow down for no reason. Some survive crashes they shouldn't. And a few, a very few, catch a glimpse of something pale in the headlights and live to wonder why. I don't believe we were saved by chance. I believe we were spared. There's a difference. Chance doesn't leave reminders. Chance doesn't watch you afterward. Chance doesn't follow you home. Whatever stands on that road, whatever wears the shape of an old woman, whatever remembers the names carved into wooden crosses, it is not cruel, but it is not gentle either. It doesn't save everyone, only those who are meant to keep going. And once you know it's there, you never drive the same way again. Time moved on. That's what people say when they want to believe something is over. But some things don't end. They settle. They become part of the way you breathe, the way you drive, the way you listen to silence. Years have passed since that night on the mountain road. I still live in rural Colorado, still teach high school, still drive the same highways every day. From the outside, nothing about me seems different, but inside, the road never really let me go. I no longer dream every night. Weeks go by now without anything unusual, but sometimes, when the wind moves just right through the trees, or when a road curves a little too sharply out of sight, I feel it again, that awareness, that quiet pressure at the edge of thought, a reminder. Jake doesn't drive long haul anymore. He never said the crash was the reason. He didn't have to. He drives locally now, daytime routes, familiar roads. Once, over coffee, I asked him if he ever sees her. He shook his head. "No," he said, "but I know when she's near." "How?" He tapped his chest. "Because something tells me to slow down, and I listen. I went back to that road one last time. Not at night. Not alone. Just once. To make sure it was real. The shortcut looked ordinary in daylight. Cracked pavement. Tall trees. Shadows that behaved like shadows should. The boulder was still there. The cross was still there too. Someone had left fresh flowers at its base. I didn't recognize the name carved into the wood, but that didn't matter. I stood there quietly. No questions. No fear. Just acknowledgement. That was when I understood something I'd been avoiding. The old woman. The house. The hands. They weren't meant to be understood. They were meant to be felt. Like gravity. Like time. Like death itself. Some forces don't explain themselves. They simply act. I thought about Emily. About how she had lived her life listening. Noticing. As if she'd always known the world was thinner than it appeared. I called her once. Months after everything happened. We spoke politely. Carefully. She never mentioned the road. Neither did I. But before we hung up, she said one thing. You made it back, she said. Not I'm glad you're safe. Not did everything go okay. Just, you made it back. And in her voice, I heard certainty. I don't know if the old woman was a spirit, or a memory of the land, or something older than both. I only know what she did. She stood where others had fallen. She warned without words. She intervened without mercy. She chose, and she refused. Some nights, when I drive alone through the mountains, the road stretches long and dark ahead of me. The headlights cut a narrow path. The trees stand still. And for just a second, I imagine a figure at the edge of the beam, not stepping out, not reaching, just watching, making sure I keep going. I don't feel fear anymore. Fear is loud. What I feel is quieter, heavier, respect. Because once you understand that something saved you, you also understand something else. It won't always, and it doesn't owe you anything. I still slow down on sharp curves, still avoid shortcuts at night, still glance at roadside memorials longer than most people do. Not out of superstition, out of recognition. Each cross marks a place where a decision was made, not always by the driver. People ask why I never talk about that night, why I don't tell it as a story, why I don't laugh it off as luck. It's because stories have endings. This doesn't. The road is still there. The forest is still there. And whatever walks between them still listens, still watches, still waits for the moment when headlights appear in the distance, and a choice must be made. If you ever drive a mountain road at night, and you feel the urge to slow down for no reason, listen to it. If you think you see something pale at the edge of the trees, don't challenge it. And if you survive something you shouldn't have, don't call it luck. Some protections come from places we don't see. Some guardians never introduce themselves, and some roads remember every soul that passes through them, including the ones who were allowed to leave. My name is Michael Carter, and this is not a ghost story. It's a reminder that sometimes, when death reaches out, something older reaches first.